Honorable Ssemujju, KCCA sackings. One, did you expect it? Two, are you satisfied that's enough? Or do you have a conspiracy theory behind it, like Agatha says, that there might be a little bit more that we don't know?
First of all, the 3-year contract of Chisaka, from what I know, was not supposed to have been renewed. But because she's part of the, they call them fellowship, of Museveni's wife, so they met there. And the president told her why he did not want to renew her contract. Chisaka, I am told, broke down. She started crying, and she said she was being failed by the supervisors. The president then told her, okay, first she introduced herself as a daughter of Dr. Buram from my MP.
She is?
Yeah. And the president said, I didn't know you were even my daughter. Because Dr. Buram was an NRM MP, I think in the 7th Parliament. So during the conversation, so the president gets to know that Chisaka is a daughter of a former NRM. Of a former NRM MP, and said, I don't know, you are my daughter. She complained about the supervisors. Then the president said, don't mind about them, I'm going to renew your contract. You will now be supervised directly by Nachowe, head of public service. And subsequently, Nachowe has held 2 meetings at KCCA, including one where she invited everybody and said, tell me the problems of KCCA. They were not talking. Said, don't fear Chisaka, tell me even if she's here. Then she held another one. So that's how the contract is renewed, that she's part of a fellowship, a group that prays with the First Lady, and she has represented the First Lady, where First Lady was invited as a guest of honor at least 8 times since. So the contract is not renewed because Museveni is satisfied with her performance, but it is renewed because she's my daughter, being a daughter of Dr. Buram, but she also got access through the fellowship. But there are already issues in the city for which Museveni was not comfortable renewing the contract. Having renewed the contract against those issues that they discussed, now it has happened. But you must also understand, Oscar.
For a minute there, you sounded for the first time like you are on President Museveni's side.
You must also understand that these public jobs, there is a lot of lobbying. People are brought there by different interests.
Sure.
Those interests will keep knocking at the door of Mr. Museveni. Please don't forget the contract of Ssemujju. It has ended, or it is about to come to an end. But Museveni also had his own issues. So he renews the contract, and then it gives him an opportunity. That's where I come to the point that Agatha made. Museveni has not sacked Chisaka and Ruyimbazi and Dr. Okero because of Chitezi. He has actually fired them because of those other issues that were stopping him from renewing the contract. In fact, Okero, I am told, wrote to the Chisaka saying that Chitezi is about to kill people. So if it is Chitezi, then you would not be sacking Okero. A man who told everybody that, you guys, this thing is about to kill people. In fact, that guy should have been, if it is Chitezi, have been promoted. So the sacking has nothing to do with Chitezi. It has everything else to do with the other issues, the politics of Museveni in the city, the contracts. KCCA has had a budget of about 410 billion the last about 2 financial years when Chisaka is at the helm. This year the budget has grown to about 800 billion because there is a component of World Bank and the Greater Kampala Metropolitan Infrastructure Project. That budget of KCCA of about 410 billion, about 150 billion salaries. Another about so and so is non-wage, fuel, vehicle, etc. The money that remains to do the actual work in Kampala should actually be money meant for a town like Chira, not for a city, a capital city of Uganda. This financial year, KCCA submitted a request of 60 billion to decommission Kitezi. They say they needed about 23 billion, and then to put the infrastructure in Dundu, in Mukono, to decommission and then begin using Dundu. The government of M7 provided 1 billion. Later on, when the budget committee...
1 billion. This is 1 billion towards the 60 billion.
Yes, they wanted 60 billion.
And they gave him 1.
To decommission Kitezi, they said they needed about... because they needed to stabilize Kitezi. Because walking away would not stop a disaster like it did. Said we will now go to Dundu. We need to buy machines to go and make Dundu ready. That money was not provided.
Decommissioning itself needs money.
Yeah, it needed 23.
Yeah.
Oh, decommissioning needed 23 billion.
The overall budget of making Dundu ready is over 100 billion, but they wanted to do it in phases. So the first phase required about 43 billion. All that money was not provided. The budget committee, and I'm a member of the committee, provided, removed money from what we consider the non-priorities, 10 billion, and gave it to KCCA to deal with the drainage. When M7 came complaining against Parliament for changing his priorities in the budget, even that 10 billion he removed and gave it to Rocco, a company, private company that was struggling. So really, anyone who praises M7, you may like him, but the problem starts and ends with him. Mr. M7 complained about flies in Kampala. At the time, Sevana was a mayor more than 20 years ago. You remember the exchange between both of them. Sevana saying, actually, you are the one who's bringing rubbish from Rwachtura and dumping it in Kampala. I think in Museveni's mind, he concentrated more about collecting garbage from Kampala. He didn't follow the process where this collected garbage goes and what happens there. If he passed by Kampala, drove on Kampala Street and they were clean, for him that would be okay. He only realizes, because I am told after Kitezi even asked, how did the people settle there? So that's when he now realized that actually collecting garbage from Kampala is a percentage of what you require to do as a government. You may collect all of it and then go and dump and it kills people. I think now he will pay a little bit of attention. He knows it's not just collecting and driving and taking somewhere else. So the sacking, I said, Oscar, has nothing to do with Kitezi. It has other issues. But the management of Kampala, because you see, Kampala has two main problems. The management, Abdul has spoken about it, the quarreling, the multiple centers, each person driving in his own direction. But it also has a problem of budgeting. Because you see, a capital city, which is the face of your country, and it has no roads, and the money is not there. Oscar, you need to look at each road in Kampala. We are now going to do roads just because the World Bank wrote to government and said we need to decongest Kampala. World Bank, not that government went to World Bank, but World Bank came to government because it is also present here with the offices. After they are decided, they need to do roads in Kampala and Greater Kampala Metropolitan. The Japanese also came here and said we need to build for you bridges. So this city survives on handouts. So a city that survives on handouts is like a street child. You may have lunch, you may not have. And that's how Museveni runs it. So you cannot so even if you employ there Muhoozi Kainerugaba or Janet Kataha or anyone, and the budget remains the same, you will have these problems and even more. Because now, okay, Kitezi, you have found people to blame. What about the potholes? Who do you blame? Were also the Chisakana team incompetent that they didn't do roads in Kampala? The trade order, the drainage, this city of formerly Indians, the sewage connection in Kampala is still, I think, as low as 15%. At one time it was 9%. I think National Water has added a few. So the sewage coverage remains at less than 20%. No infrastructure to increase it, no money to do it. All of those things cannot be done by an executive director. And I would say when Jennifer came in, because Seven wanted to fight Lukwago and fail him, he made the money available. At that time, Jennifer had a budget of between 800 and 900 billion, which reduced by more than a half. under the subsequent directors, including Kisaka. And people need to read budgets to understand how government works. You will have a budget and more than half of the budget will go for wages, it will go for vehicles, it will go. So when you are a director, you remain with nothing. In the last financial year, the KCCA had a budget of less than 10 billion to do roads and drainage in Kampala, 10 billion. And they are doing a kilometer at between 2.5 and 4.8, depending on some compensations. So if you give KCCA money to do 5 kilometers of road, according to Dr.
Atim.
You know, when you talk substantial.
They forget that there's a lot of other
that is substantial. That is substantial
funding
budget.
Outside the budget.
No. What you're talking about, 1 billion or 6 billion, that is government of Uganda contribution. But you've just talked about the World Bank. You've talked about the Japanese and all
they
that.
Are specific.
Yeah. So let's talk about our whole budget, not only the specific government of Uganda. It knows their sources of revenue.
That these days,
external
whether it is
funding.
World Bank, whether it is Japan, they are all going to be part of the budget. That's why I said last year the budget was 400 billion. It is now 800 because of World Bank. So there is no longer money outside the budget. Once the money is brought, it's part of the budget.
But just looking a little bit ahead, so if you have a new regime, Ssemujju has pointed out the problems. If you have no money, nothing will happen. But if you have a new regime like now, what should they begin with? I think it was yesterday or the other day, I had people complaining on Entebbe Road that the stench of rubbish is overwhelming them as well. So the issue of rubbish has not gone away.
The issue of money, Oscar. We always have a problem of money, there's no doubt. But even the little we have, how have we utilized it?
Thank you.
Even the little we have, how have we utilized it? But the issue of money, yes, we'll always have a problem. There is no city that gets enough money. You can't have that sort of this. But the biggest challenge we have, 60% of the country's revenue is generated in this city.
Why metropolitan?
In the metropolitan. You get it? Yes. So why can't we? And you see, if we talk about Kampala city, really, we should be talking about metropolitan. All of us, you in Chazang, people say you live in Kampala, but you don't live in Kampala. People think I live in Kampala, I don't live in Kampala, I'm in Wakiso. So we are talking about the greater Kampala metropolitan. So until we realize that we have to sort out the cow that gives the milk of this city, of this country, we are in trouble. So the issue of the budget should be addressed not today, but yesterday. We cannot afford to be running a city which is purely like a slum. You know, you just drive to Kampala city and you are welcomed by coffins in Katwe and Sono Juakali. I mean, what sort of impression do we give to anybody? Just, you know that place as you live and so on.
These days it is on your departure. When you're coming in, you don't
okay, it is coffins which are telling you bye-bye. Thanks for visiting Kampala. So really, to me, I
haven't used Katwe route. Is that large pothole still there?
No, that's what they patched it up. Not that they did, but they patched it up. I think that is one of the holes where this Agatha has put a banana banana stem. Yeah. It was so bad. But even then, Katwe has remained Chibuga Chabagana.
You're going to Parliament on Monday.
Yeah.
And you're a powerful person in NRM, PLU, all those things. You are there.
I was not. Have you ever had me there?
Yeah. But, pardon?
Wasn't PLU disbanded?
Don't worry. Those things will... They'll be fine. Don't worry.
They'll be fine.
Yeah.
So Agnes, what on the floor of Parliament, what should parliamentarians be doing about KCCA? What should NRM parliamentarians be saying about about KCCA?
I think there are about 3 things to note with KCCA or any other city. I live in Greater Kampala as well. And I think in terms of budgeting, we don't need to assume or blame government or parliament or any other responsible bodies. No, that every budget of Uganda is about KCCA. No. We have a government of Uganda budget, and it has its priorities. So many, supposing now we close all the hospitals and we come and work on KCCA. I don't think that's the right budgeting that should be happening.
Government took over KCCA. That's where the issue is.
Yes.
If it hadn't taken over KCCA, maybe the discussion would be different. But government took over KCCA.
No, but that's what I'm saying, that budgeting, there's always a prioritization process. Now, when we see government putting that as much money as they have put, that is what the government could have raised in revenue. Because budget is about revenue and expenditure. You're not going to expect government of Uganda to put all the money in one KCCA. Yes, it's a priority. Yes, it's a big problem. And my colleague, Honorable Katuntra, has just mentioned that even the little that we have, couldn't we have done something better for Kitezi? Even with the little. Yes, we needed 20 billion or something, but the little that we had, was there anything that could have? For me, I thought that is where the discussion should be. Because there is no way, even if you go to US or New York right now, you're going to see garbage everywhere, systems and all that. So every city has its own challenges. For me, the discussion should be around, with the little that we have, how have we implemented, how have we executed the little budget? And then,
Doctor, you need to understand, there is a unit cost. Let me give you an example that was...
I hope you are bringing the issue of corruption
when
as well.
I raised it in Parliament. For every child in a UPE school, government is giving 10,000 shilling a year. But in the schools run by the president, in Kanyareru and Gomba, he pays 700,000 per child. That is his calculated unit cost. So by a miracle, you can have a child of 10,000 a year performing. But if they fail, whether the money is stolen or not, first of all, you are not meeting. So you need to look at, calculate the unit cost to run a city. If the unit cost is 60 billion to Duchites and Dundu, and you provide 1%, you cannot blame anything else.
You know, for me, Oscar, I'm not so much a blaming, pointing finger kind of person. I expected that this discussion was going to be about what can we do. A shared responsibility.
That's the question I
Because
put to
if
you.
Everything is about this one man, one man about... Unfortunately, all the three of us are members of parliament, and we have a role to appropriate the budget. If that money was there, why didn't we give it? It is not there.
Removed it.
No, the revenue, even that 10 billion, would it be enough? You just said you needed about 50 billion.
But
for me,
Agnes,
think...
this is what I put to you.
Yes.
That what are you going to do? What is the NRM side going to do?
For me, the first thing that the president has done to remove this executive is to tell you that even the little you have, use it well, and also be professional in the way you do your work. Secondly, there is very high corruption, not only in KCCA, but the whole country. How much is it a kilometer of road? And you can... In KCCA?
4.8.
Exactly. Is it the same in other cities? Like it is not, right? That is corruption. That's what we are saying, that even the 1 billion, can we also do the right thing with the little that we have? So if we were talking about, can we make sure that as leaders, we hold our civil servants accountable, tighten the gaps where corruption come in? If Tanzania or any other cities around in East Africa is doing a road at maybe 1 billion or something, why are we doing 4? And why are we not asking questions? Why didn't we even ask that, Dorothy, that why are you doing this one at 4, but we have learned the other side it was this?
Doctor, I think, you see, let us look at what case the Lord Mayor and the Council, they have been asking this question.
They even came to Parliament.
They even came to Parliament. So these sort of questions have been asked for a very, very long time, including the time when I was chairperson of local government accounts, which is over 2 decades, or a decade ago. So to me, you see, as long as, let me tell you, as long as you have that conflict. Power centers, nobody really is responsible, you will have this problem. Because under the constitution, KCCA, the Kampala state is supposed to be under the control of central government. So the question you are asking who?
No, I'm
are you asking
myself
the central government
and ourselves as members of parliament.
So it is a rhetorical question.
Because remember, we have also an oversight role. For me, what I want us to get out from this is that a country as Uganda has systems of governance. Members of parliament have an oversight role. I'm even glad he was a chair of the committee. So for me, I think we should find a shared kind of solution. Yes. But not this thing of Museveni. No. Can we, if Museveni leaves now, Ssemujju? No. If you become a president today, would you give 1 billion, 100 billion or whatever in
They ask me
cases?
for 60 and I give $1 billion and I blame them.
And then you close all the hospitals? I think as leaders, let's see a better way of managing our country, and we have responsibilities.
Let me give you a
For me, that's
message.
what I think.
Here's a message from Moses Birahanga. It says, government obtained a loan of 1 trillion from the ADB for repair of 100 kilometers of roads. Madam Kisaka appeared many times on the gang talking about this project, but implementation has been so slow.
Thank you.
I hope Ssemujju knows this.
Thank you.
Yeah, but
It is not Museveni who should come and sweep the roads.
Remember, the road is in Namamvi. They have been under construction for the last 15 years.
Is that Museveni?
Yes.
It is a person given responsibility. Museveni has given you a job.
You don't do that.
Go and do the right thing.
You don't do that.
Do not steal the little money which is there.
Oscar,
For me, I don't
without
think.
appearing anything, I think my sister, doctor, should get this clearly. The English people said the buck starts and ends
With the boss.
with the boss.
They,
See, if you're heading a corporation and things are not going well in that corporation, you as managing director of that corporation, you can't run away. Say, by the way, I appointed the procurement officer, so he's the one doing the things correctly. I think you need to look at it that way.
Okay.
That some of these, because, for example, to sack an ED, who can do it other than the president? So, have the things been going on well at KCCA until she stays? Or we all know, including you and me, that things are not going on well. And if they have not been going on well, what have we done as responsible officers, including the chief executive of the country? So I want you to look at it in that light, not in a side that people are saying Museveni.
But now
President
the chief executive
Museveni
has
is the
told
chief
you are
executive.
not doing the right thing, go home. I'm bringing somebody else.
But everybody is
That
happy
alone,
with
you
that
also,
decision.
you see.
Everybody is saying they are happy.
Thank you. Let's get Agatha to close this out.
To close it out. So I think I agree that Honorable Agnes today has struggled.
Struggle how?
Yeah, because when you're talking about budgeting and saying that you guys are MPs and you should have allocated this money, when recently, just this budgeting cycle, when Parliament tried to reallocate funds to other areas that, some they thought were critical, others were for their benefit, the President returned the bill, right? And that bill, everything went back, money for that they had allocated to ROCO went back to ROCO, and this is ROCO that was given 270 billion in 2022, being added more, removed from ambulances. So Honorable Agnes here knows that the budgeting in this country, Parliament is supposed to just rubber stamp what has come from the executive, and I think there is a problem with the law there that, the budget is the president's budget. So I don't know how Parliament now, which has the allocation role as well, how they work on that together. Because ordinarily you'd think it comes from the executive and Parliament reviews it and says, no, here, the priority should be here. Because you cannot, Honorable Agnes, you can't say that the priority, you saw people going to die at the hands of cheaters, and you didn't think that was priority, and you thought buying cars, giving billions to State House or whatever other things you do are the priorities. We know that there's no money, not enough to solve all the problems, but we are saying human life should really be priority of this government. And when you're talking about you being members of parliament, I'm glad you're a member of parliament. You know that Parliament has no power to do many things, especially when the executive is involved. So I will again say that the firing of the current leadership, the previous leadership under whose stewardship the Chitezi tragedy happened, is a good step. But I'd ask again, if we have known that Chitezi reached its capacity 14 years ago, who was there, who should take responsibility? How many times did KCCA request for the budget to resolve that problem, and it wasn't given that budget? I knew about the 26 billion that was requested to generate power from the rubbish there and was not given. Honorable Ssemujju is now talking about where they requested for 60 billion and were given 1 billion. So when you're firing people, show us that these resources were allocated to resolve this issue, but they were not used, or the implementation was not there.
Now we move to Uganda Law Society elections. The election is going to happen today. I think they've started already. Agatha, you're the closest to Gen Z people on the show. Was this expected, that you'd have Isaac Ssemakadde shaking and banging tables?
Honorable Agnes said we shouldn't, said she will be surprised if we blame M7 for that as well. I blame M7 for that. Because yes.
M7 also.
Like how Ugandans keep saying M7 at Fuzebubi. Because when you find yourself, I am seeing the lawyers, those who are voting Ssemakadde are saying, but he's the better devil. We this country, we have been now forced to settle for the lesser evil. Always. You are always saying, we don't deserve better. We just deserve a lesser evil in everything. And I think it's really a governance issue still that gets to that level. And like the Uganda Law Society, someone wrote an article, a friend of mine, Andrew Karamaji, where he said that the Uganda Law Society has been on life support for long. That we can hardly remember when it was, vibrant. And that's true, because I don't remember any ULS election that people were interested in. Me, personally, I really have always seen it's ULS, it's the lawyers and their pomp and whatever. Like, at the end of the day, there's nothing much ULS is adding or removing from our lives as ordinary Ugandans. But now this comes and you have Ssemakadde. And I think Ssemakadde, everyone calls him rule of law champion, or that's what he has self-proclaimed. But I think he does everything that is contrary to that, to rule of law itself. He shouts down people. He doesn't hear any divergent view. I have seen him make outrageous accusations, and this is, I am conflicted because I've been at the receiving end of those, and I'm saying, but lawyers are supposed to have at least some basis of I am saying this, and
he wrote to funders saying that you people don't have accountability.
No, actually, when he wrote, now he didn't write about accountability. That's the strange thing. On Twitter, they were talking about accountability, and I was asking, Ssemakadde has run an NGO for 10 years. Over 10 years, I think. It's called Legal Brains Trust. There's no day he has ever come on Twitter and displayed accountability. He knows how accountability for donor money is done. So when he's demanding for accountability, I tried to ask, so what exactly are we dealing with? Are you saying it's illegal to get money from donors? Are you saying we got money and didn't do what we were supposed to do? Are you saying... But when he actually wrote to them, he didn't raise any accountability issue. He said that we are a threat to freedom of expression. That because, I think he used an example of some cartoons drawn by Spire, but also responses from Godwin, because he's thinking we should be attacked and accused first and people don't respond, and said that we had, unleashed a mob. But I don't want to talk about how he has affected me as a person. I'm talking generally that for me, a person like that actually is a threat to that rule of law.
But how have you decided that you blame President Museveni for that?
Exactly, I wanted to
Sorry?
How then do you decide that you blame President Museveni for the creation of Isaac Ssemakadde?
No, but like I've told you, so the lawyers have found themselves in that position where they are saying, but if we don't vote Ssemakadde, then who?
Yeah.
You know, they kept saying, but what is the better choice? And those who asked me, I said, because I don't know the other two candidates. I think one
Withdrew.
withdrew.
One candidate.
So
He's also Isaac.
There have been two other than Isaac until yesterday, but one. Oh, all right. So I would be asked, but who would you vote? And I said, no. I actually don't know who I would vote. I know who I wouldn't vote. Because if you have already seen, because these issues are out there of everyone saying, but, there have been debates where young women have asked about an issue of sexual harassment where there are even allegations against him. And he has said, but you're not even fit enough to tie my shoelaces. How dare you ask me that question? If you are a woman enough, come and stand next to me. And everyone is intimidated, is scared. And people had to get out of that. So you are thinking a person like that in leadership and of a law society, because law is about, arguments, divergency in opinions and views. You would want a leader that assures you that will happen, that people will bring ideas. Ssemakadde doesn't respect any idea that is not his.
Okay. Ssemujju, I have seen what Agatha says. This shows a rare occasion when Agatha and Abdu are going to agree on something. But
I am not so sure because Agatha is having her own problem with Ssemakadde.
Yes, I think so. But for me, I'm waiting to
you
hear
don't have to get into
how
that.
the president.
Oscar, let me tell you.
Hey.
Let me tell you how I understand law society. Not by the act that sets it up, but I read the book of Honorable Sam Kareganjua, and he wrote about his role during the Amin time, being a chairman of Uganda Law Society, that exercised some moderating professional effect on the excessive abuse of law by the government. There are people who were arrested by the military using his office as chairman of Law Society. He went following them up until he himself was arrested. And each morning he was being caned by the soldiers. The first time they asked him if he had taken tea, and for 2 days since he hadn't taken, he said, I haven't taken, sir. So he thought they were giving him black tea or coffee. So they took him and they started whipping.
African tea.
Yes. Then he realized that actually tea meant exactly that, whipping. So his role, I remember one time I wrote about Sebatindira and she was offended. She got other people like Ssemujju to call me to express her that, because I was comparing the role of Njuba as the chairman of Uganda Law Society during Amin and her role as the chairman of Law Society under M7. So that's how I appreciate Law Society. Abdu and the other lawyers can tell me. So therefore, if that is the role as Njuba captured it, that you must have a moderating professional effect on the application of law by the court, by government, the beneficiary, those of us, the public, who are the beneficiary of that role, you carry us along as you go to Munyunyu to choose the next president of Law Society, because you're going to be beneficiary of your services, free services. I at the stage where we are now, again, the lawyers will forgive me, when I compare some of the past presidents, like Professor Sempewa, I think what has happened to the rest of the institutions, public, I remember Godwin telling us at Katonga that what dictators do, all of them, first they will capture state institutions, then they will capture private institutions, churches, mosques, NGOs, traditional So they will seek to capture every institution that will raise an alarm against and about what they are doing. And I think Uganda Law Society has fallen in the same trap. I remember one time I went to attend a meeting of Ugandans, North America, something, UNA. It used to be ordinary. Then one time the president went there, then the wife the following day. And because they didn't have a system of sieving who participates in their election, one time they flooded the hall with people who are from Kampala, those who are not in the diaspora, to choose the next, I don't know, the chairman or president, because it had become people like Munini Morera and others outspoken about things that are happening in Uganda. So by the Law Society doing exactly what it should do, speaking about the violation of rights and the application of rule of law, it immediately becomes a threat to people who are violating, and they will seek to take it over or to influence. And I think Rajire Chiwanuka Chiriowa, the Attorney General, his partner Karujiri is not very active in these things, but they have been very active determining who becomes the chairman of Law Society. So so the Law Society had become like it is one of the league of NRM. You occasionally get one chairperson there who wants to act as the president of Law Society. But in the main, most of the first presidents, from Kihika to others, were NRM leaning, whose duty was to whitewash the excesses. But I like Ssemakadde, but I don't think he should be the president of lawyers in Uganda. I don't think so. I think they need to find a person who is cool-headed. I said the people like Professor Sempe, who are not partisan, who are not radical, but he has energized the campaign. He has got all of us to follow. I think the lawyers and the public had given up on Law Society, because I don't remember the last election and how they went. But to his credit, Ssemakadde has made this very eventful that it is even being discussed. I think this is the first time in many years that you are discussing Law Society, not even once, but twice. So Ssemakadde,
we may even discuss next week, depending on what one.
So his biggest contribution is that he has gotten the people now.
Yeah.
He has gotten the people now interested in Law Society
if
again.
If Katuntu had won, we would not discuss next week. But if Ssemakadde wins, we discuss.
I have friends who are lawyers who had also given up. But this morning, they were telling me you're going to Munyonyo. So I give him credit that he has made the Law Society relevant again. But I don't think he would be compared to
my friend who I work with, Philip Karugaba, has just finished the voting Ssemakadde, and you know he likes humor. He says they've even asked us to vote using the middle finger. You know the meaning of that.
So if Ssemakadde wins,
trouble.
No, not necessarily trouble. If he wins, he deserves it, because he has made all of us interested, non-lawyers and maybe some lawyers, once again in Law Society.
Abdul, Ssemakadde, it is true, has brought turmoil.
Not turmoil.
Let's say turbulence.
He has made the thing eventful.
It's more than human. But before I ask you the role of Law Society, Ssemujju tried to say something about it. What do you think? How is this conference going to end? What do you call it? Say, what is it? A conference, a seminar, a convention? AGM. How do you see it ending?
For anybody who is aspiring to be a president, the membership of Law Society should be looking at the objective. Can this person lead this society to achieve these objectives? That is me as a voter, and that's what I'll have in mind as I cast my vote. And I imagine that should be any reasonable lawyer, that should be the basis.
Maybe it is us non-voters who are making the noise.
No, actually not. Yesterday, I'd been away for 3 weeks. So when I came, this whole thing was over. And I usually attend the Saturday meeting. I don't attend the pre-annual general meeting. But because of what has been going on, what Ibrahim is talking about, I had to go and say, what is this going on? And the whole of the yesterday afternoon, I was in that place. First of all, I've never seen it, the excitement, enthusiasm, like I saw yesterday. I've never seen the numbers, because, there are those who are outside the hall, but those who are inside the hall are lawyers. And those numbers, we've never seen them before.
Oh, usually you have those outside the hall.
No.
Those are following what's going on.
You can mobilize anybody to come
and be there outside.
Facilitators and so on. But inside the hall is for members and so on.
Yeah.
That hall was full, over 1,000 people. But I'm telling you today, it has always been around 400, 500, 600.
This is a better turnout.
Yes, now I can see more than 2,000 people voting, or over 1,500 people voting. There's a lot of excitement. And the excitement is one, they are the pro-Ssemakadde and the pro-anti-Ssemakadde. So everybody has been mobilized. And what I have seen, which is quite unfortunate for the society, the law society, is us against them. So we've now ceased to have what we used to have, that, okay, this one will promote this and so on. It is us as against them. And whoever wins has a very enormous task of
bringing them together
back the lawyers, because it is actually polarized.
I don't see Ssemakadde.
The younger people,
united.
The younger people, I must say here, have been mobilized. The upcountry people have been mobilized, and there is this, that the older ones and those who are doing well are this. And then you have what the wretched of the earth. They also now coalescing somewhere. So, and Oscar, maybe, and the Ibrahim has just talked about this. I was looking at the list. The profile of people who used to be presidents of law society. You get Naftali Akenadogo, one of the most celebrated lawyers this country will ever produce. You get about Godfrey Vinaisa, one of the most celebrated lawyers this country will ever produce. You get about Joseph Mulenga, one of the most celebrated lawyers this country will produce. Kaleganjuba, the same. Professor Edward Sempebwa, the same. Justice Remy Kasule, the same. Justice Solome Balungi Bosa, the same. You know, when you talk about people like even John Mary Mugisha, the same. When you talk about Harriet Diana Musoke, she may not be as this, but she's also high up there. And let me stop there. The others are my friends.
People need to know that the names you have read were names before M7.
So, I don't take that argument. So, that in my view, showed the profile of what Uganda law society is, and maybe what should be. Over years, the considerations have sort of changed. And don't think, okay, this one is really high profile, but even the years down, it is more or less a little bit of not as high profile as it is now. But how do you divorce what is going on in the ULC from the border politics of this country? How do you do it?
Exactly.
Where is it?
What is the body politics?
I mean,
let me tell you, I am going to pick. If you ask me, let me give it to you. Where I sit, I know when I sat,
Doctor. My president.
No, it has nothing to do with the president. I'm not talking about him. Where I sit, for example, I sat there in 201. And I know the membership of that house. And I know the membership of the house today. They are worlds apart. I can tell you. And I don't want anybody to imagine that what is going on in law society is different from what is going on in the entire body politics, including the institution I work for.